Hi, and welcome back to SOS Stories of Survivors. I'm your host, Serina Dansker, and today's episode is about awakening. My guest today is here to talk about the moment when life as you know it disappears, and when you're left with the question, who am I now? Maria Garcia was just 25 years old when a massive stroke left her locked inside her own body. She was unable to move or speak. And what followed were years of frustration, grief, but grit and determination as well, and a rebirth of her spirit. Through her platform, Genuinely Maria, she now helps others reclaim their lives, their health, not just in body, but in heart and in soul. Maria, welcome to the show. I'm so deeply honored to have you here.
Thank you for bringing me on. It's a pleasure.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is such an amazing story. Can you take us back to the time when you first realized that something was wrong, something was happening in your body?
Yes, I was talking to a boyfriend on the phone, sitting on my bed, and all of a sudden I started to say things like, the red ocean is underneath the kitchen table. And I'm like, what? What does that even mean? Because I watched myself say it like if I was the third person
Wow.
outside of my body. And I was like, that I don't know what that was. And then I said something else that made no sense. And then suddenly I was able to take it out. I need to go. And I hung up the phone. And as soon as I hung up, I got the worst headache I've ever had in my life. It was like somebody went BAM with a metal pan on my head.
Wow.
And I fell onto my bed, fetal position, and that's when I knew something's up.
Now, were there any signs before this happened? Like, were there any things that led up to that first moment that you can recall, or?
If I really think about it, probably 2 or 3 days prior, I had a weird feeling like running up my body, and I remember going to the pharmacy like in the middle of the night, maybe 2 or 3 a.m. Was that related?
I don't know. So you were only 25 years old, so young, full of plans. How how did you feel when you were in that fetal position and your body wasn't responding anymore?
Well, to be honest, I thought I had food poisoning. So, because I had just had lunch and we had shrimp. So that was my first thought. I'm food poisoned. I never thought what was happening was that I was having a stroke because I didn't even know that word existed.
Wow. So can you talk about so you're in the fetal position. So what did you do? Did you go to the hospital with the food
Yeah,
poisoning?
a friend of mine was in the house and he heard the commotion in the room.
Mm.
So he came over, saw me lying down in the fetal position, called my mother, who was living on the second floor,
Oh, good.
and she came down just as I began to puke. They called the ambulance. Ambulance came. They actually came and left because they too thought I had food poisoning, and they didn't think it was serious.
Oh my God. That's such a fail on their part. Wow.
Well, they didn't. They wouldn't think somebody my age
Right.
was
Capable of having
Yeah.
a stroke.
Yeah.
So what did you do after they left?
After they left, I got worse and worse, and so we ended up going to the hospital.
Your mom drove
My,
you?
no,
Your friend?
my friend drove.
Wow. And when you go into the emergency room, they were like, oh, stomach thing, just sit over there.
Well, kind of. I had to wait probably something like, it felt like 10 hours, but it was probably more like 2 or 3.
Did you feel like your jaw slack and your arm go numb? Like, you know how stroke victims normally find they can't control their body?
I didn't really feel it, but I was told that my face was drooping. And what I felt was vertigo, extreme vertigo. I couldn't walk straight. I had to hold on to people.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. So once you were in the hospital, they were able to diagnose that you were having a stroke, and
Yeah, I had a couple of tests, probably 3 hours there, And finally, somebody walks over and says, "Oh, miss, we think you're having a stroke." And I was like, okay, so much for food poisoning.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's a stroke? I had no idea.
You had no
I
idea
had
what
no
it
idea
was.
what it was.
So what did they do for you when you have a stroke? Do they just put you in the ICU or?
You know, what happened to me is they transferred me to a different hospital, one that's specialized.
Wow.
And it depends on what type of stroke you're having. If it's a clot, they can give you a medication called TPA, and then you don't really have side effects.
Oh.
Or all the stuff that is, I don't know, the sexy voice and not being able, so all that goes away, or it doesn't affect you because it busts a clot.
Okay.
But they didn't know if my stroke was a clot or if my vein burst. Because if it's a breakage, it could kill you. So they
Wow.
never gave it to me.
Wow. So what did they prescribe? What did they do? They just
Well, nothing extra. I got transferred. There was feet of snow on the ground. It was Sunday. So there were no doctors. Right?
Oh my gosh.
So I was scheduled for surgery the following day.
So what kind of surgery do they do?
I don't know what it's called, but the procedure is they insert a type of balloon in your groin, and it goes up through your brain, and it busts a clot.
Wow. So they were able to find out that there was a clot in there.
Yeah, after many hours. So
And by the time they did that and you're done with the surgery, what was it like? How to describe how you felt afterwards.
well, it was considered a medical success.
Okay.
But to me, it did not feel that way at all because when I came out of the surgery, I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, I couldn't do anything.
Really?
Yeah.
So you were like a prisoner in your body?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what's that like when you're aware, but you can't tell people that anything? So how did you communicate?
I didn't for 2 weeks.
Could you blink or any of
Yeah.
it? You could.
Yeah, but that's a whole other story. So
Yeah, tell
I
us.
was able to blink, but everybody thought I was in a coma or in a vegetative state.
Oh.
So they called my eye movements involuntary.
Wow. So, okay, so your mind is awake, your body is still. You're trying to let people know. So how did you make them aware that no, I'm not in a vegetative state?
Yeah, it was actually a friend of mine. She came over with pictures of a trip we took to Brazil. And she saw me tracking the pictures with my eyes.
Right.
And she told everybody. And they're like, oh, no, she's not there. But then I guess my family said, well, let's tell her to blink once for yes and twice for no and see if it works. And of course, I did it.
Wow. Sometimes I'm learning more and more. You have to advocate for yourself because the doctors, as educated as they are, they lose sight of the big picture a lot of the times.
A lot of times.
And it's scary, really.
And what's really scary is that health is a business.
Yeah.
So you're a number, really. It's all for profit, and the stuff that goes on is just mind-blowing.
It is. I was looking at my mom just gets noticed that, all the doctors that you rely on now are not part of your insurance plan anymore. So you need to either change doctors or change insurance plans. She's 87 years old. Who in the world wants to start doing that? I just, I could go on and on about insurance and the whole medical field and
scary out there.
Wow. So during those hospital and rehab days when you were struggling to be recognized and that you were there, what kept you holding on when giving up might have just been easier? What was why did you just keep trying to get recognized? And
I think I was so in shock at what was happening. To me, was surreal.
Mm.
Totally surreal.
And you're like, what the F, right?
Yeah, I didn't know what was up or down. It just, wow.
That's crazy. You know, that sense of being trapped, but yet somehow still reaching toward life. That's where your soul is like fighting to survive, you know? And I think that you have that inner spirit that you were like, when your friend came with those pictures and you're like tracking and she's like, oh, you're awake, aren't you? And you're like, you're damn right I am. But you're saying it with your eyes.
Right.
That was your soul in there saying, I'm not ready to go. I'm here and don't discount me, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I was so desperate and afraid, and
Of course.
I don't know.
Of course. I mean, this is, you're 25, you're a baby. How would you even know? You never even heard of a stroke before.
No.
How to get these people to listen to you. But that's when I think also God and the universe and our guardian angels kind of come in and send your friends or people that can help you get to where you need to be. Oh my God. I can only imagine how painful it must have been to relearn everything.
Wow, painful is not the
Talk
word.
about that. What, walking, talking, eating, what was the hardest part for you emotionally too?
Everything. What was the hardest part was watching what I could no longer do. That I used to be able to do, and then it was all of a sudden, I can't do that. I can't feed myself. I can't talk. I'm 25 and I'm wearing adult diapers.
Oh boy. Were you still living on your own? No, you weren't able to live on
No,
your
I
own.
couldn't live on my own.
So where did you live? Did you live back with your mom or?
Yeah.
Wow. You had to have care come in
Yeah, of
to
course.
help?
I had to get diaper changes even.
Oh, honey, that's got to be so hard. Now, so how did you learn to walk again and talk? It was just
Painstakingly, slowly. I lost hope basically when I went home after 4 months, because I went home 4 months. I went to a rehab hospital, and I thought to myself, well, I'm gonna go home and I'll be totally fine, because I had no reference for stroke. I
right,
didn't know I should have been paralyzed.
right, right.
So I figured I'm gonna be all patched up soon, and it'll just be like I'll go back to my normal life.
Oh,
That's what I thought naively.
and there was no internet. Not that you could have Googled anything because you couldn't move your hands or done any of that. So, wow, that's just crazy. Um, so you've said that losing your voice felt like losing your identity, I think. Can you talk about how it felt to not be understood or to not have your words come out differently than they did before?
To be honest, I was so ashamed.
Really?
I was so ashamed. Yeah,
Why?
like I brought this on myself or something.
Oh my gosh. But that's not what happened. You can't bring a stroke upon yourself. I mean, I don't know what causes strokes. I don't know if you've done research and have learned anything about that.
A little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, I have a friend that I play tennis with, and she was a little older than you. She was probably 40, and she too suffered a stroke, but not as debilitating as yours. She was able to fully recover, probably. I mean, she still struggles a little bit with some things, but for the most part, she's plays tennis, and she's,
Oh, that's amazing.
you know, her voice is good, and she said she still doesn't know what caused it. And she said to ask you. She said, see if she knows.
It's probably different for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, what I was told at the hospital was that the only risk factor was birth control.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's actually on the inserts.
Oh, that it can cause strokes?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they put so many things on the inserts if we read every word.
Right.
Oh my God. Wow, interesting. That's really interesting. Could be medication. So can you talk about um, when you started to speak and different words would come out, which you didn't mean to. How you were able to cope with that and eventually correct that.
When I began to speak, I was actually not saying incorrect words, but my words were, I could only speak one syllable at a time,
Oh.
and my voice was very breathy.
It's still kind of sexy, I do have to tell you, Maria. So I mean, I've heard you describe, about a moment where you were handed a hairbrush.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
So I was still in rehab,
Okay.
living at the rehab. I hadn't gone home yet. This was at the very beginning. And the first day I went to therapy, my therapist gave me a hairbrush. And by this time, I was moving my right arm. And my family had brought me my laptop. And I was communicating via the laptop.
Oh,
Because I
good.
couldn't talk, so I would just
Type it
type
out.
things out with my right hand.
Wow.
That was so amazing. When my brother brought me my laptop, I was like, wow, this is like freedom. It was like freedom.
So that gave you hope.
Yeah.
That's big.
That was huge.
Yeah.
Was huge.
So you had a way to communicate. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm in therapy with the hairbrush, and the therapist says, just comb your hair. And I thought, all right, easy. Right? So I got the hairbrush to about here. Couldn't even touch my head. And all of a sudden I was like, the realization hit me of the really long road I had ahead of me. And I started wailing. I lost it.
Oh my gosh, I don't blame you. It's overwhelming. I can see it now. I see it with my mom as she gets older. I can definitely relate to that because it can be daunting. And you don't know, you're really in the unknown and you're at the mercy of the doctors.
Yeah.
And you have to assume that what they're doing is really what you need. It's just, it's crazy. So did you feel like depression?
Oh yeah, I was stuck in that why me stage for probably at least 5 years.
Wow.
I mean, when I went home, and I went home in the wheelchair, in diapers, my eyes were crossed. My eyes got crossed.
Oh, honey.
No, they're not crossed anymore, so it's good.
No, I know. But so your eyes were crossed. So now your mom lived on a second floor. So did they have to build a ramp? And how did they?
No, they moved down to my apartment.
Okay. So that was wheelchair accessible. Did you have to
No, actually, I don't even recall. I don't think I left the house much, but there were only a few stairs down. So maybe somebody held on to me while I was holding the railing, or
No,
I don't
carried
actually
you.
recall that
Yeah.
part.
Or carried you down maybe. Wow.
But then the wheelchair didn't fit through any of my doorways. So
Right.
when I got home, that's when I graduated to using a walker at home. Because I had to. Because I had to.
Well, that's determination, right? It's either sink or swim.
Yep.
And you decided to swim or walk.
Oh, yeah.
So you had started walking during rehab, so they had gotten you that, or no?
Not really. I mean, they had used a standing table, but I wasn't able to walk.
What role did your family play? I mean, in keeping that spark alive in you that gave you that fight?
Oh my God, they were my lifeline.
Mm.
They really were. When I went home, I remember my brother came over every single day to coach me through workouts.
Oh my God.
I couldn't even really work out. And he would make me do squats, holding onto the railing of my bed because I couldn't do it otherwise.
Right.
And we also had a recumbent bike, the kind that you can sit on like a regular chair.
Mm-hmm.
And so my mom took me to the bike. I put my feet on the pedals. My feet went poof. They slipped right off. I couldn't even keep my feet on. That's how weak I was.
Wow.
And so my mother, what did she do? She tied my feet.
That's good. That's a good mother. She tied them to the pedals. And then you had to use sheer determination to...
I didn't. They kept the hope alive. They were the ones that were like, you've got to do this. I was like, I don't like you people.
Wow.
At the time, I thought they were like sergeants, and I hated every second of it.
So when you look back, was there a turning point or a moment when you stopped seeing yourself as broken and started seeing yourself as becoming someone new? Who am I now?
So yeah, that came on very slowly, but the beginning of that was when I could finally walk and I wasn't using a cane or anything. I joined the gym, and at the gym there was yoga, and I figured I might as well because it's adaptable. I don't have to do everything, and I'll just do the best I can. It was such a powerful mental exercise. I could not believe it. The black cloud that was over my head finally lifted.
Oh my gosh, I can so relate to that. There's something about yoga. It really is. I mean,
There is.
I when I was in some of the darkest times of my life, I went to this yoga class, and it was during COVID, and it was crowded, but you had to have your masks on, and you were able to do the yoga. But the instructor, and I've had him on the show, there was just something about the meditations he put us through, and just the journey through the poses that was lifting that dark
So
cloud.
powerful. So
It
powerful.
really is. Wow.
I also had a friend who was going through a really tough time, and they did yoga, and they were like, the noise stopped. The voice that that was in my ear all day just stopped, and I thought, wow.
There's something to be said about that. Wow. You know, so often healing isn't just about returning to who we were, but it's about growing into who we were meant to be, really. And I think yoga helps us find that inner soul, that inner spark, that spirit within.
Yep, I agree.
You know? Wow. So let's talk about how, you eventually turned to nutrition and holistic healing, um, as you were, I guess, as you were struggling to figure out how to recover from the stroke.
Yeah, so I did all kinds of things. I was throwing noodles at the wall to see what worked. I did hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I did therapy in Germany for 6 weeks, I believe it was.
Do you speak German?
Yes.
Oh, that's convenient, and you remembered how to, right?
Yeah, because I lived in Germany in my 20s.
Okay.
So in my early 20s.
So how long had been going on before, had you been in recovery, I guess we'll say, or in rehabilitation, before you moved to Germany?
Probably something like 5 years.
Wow.
5 years, and then I went to Germany for 6 weeks to do the therapy.
And what did that entail?
It was in the middle of the Black Forest.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a really awesome naturopathic center, so they didn't use medications. And I remember doing red light therapy. I remember them making me hike.
They made you, that's fantastic.
I couldn't do it, but I did it the best I could, but.
Right. Wow. Now, did you still use a walker or a cane or anything?
Not by the time I got to Germany.
Wow. So you had really come a long way in that 5 years.
Well, I had done a lot of stuff. I had done stem cell injections.
You
as
did?
well. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And what was that like?
I was doing so many things at one time that I don't know what exactly was helping.
I could see that, yeah.
I think every little thing helped somewhat. I don't even know. I was doing Feldenkrais method. I did all kinds of things. Anything that I thought would give me back any semblance of a normal life. Right? I was 25. I had to get back to
And
quality of life.
And by the time you went to Germany, now you're 30, so life has looked pretty different for you at that point. What was life looking like for you then? Did you
So-
still have your boyfriend or no? Okay.
No, we broke up. We broke up because he was living in London. And I was 35, he was 34. We were young and stupid,
Yeah, yeah.
It was just too much.
It was a lot. And you were working on you. And sometimes that's really what you have to do, right? Is sometimes you let all the noise go away and you focus on being the best version of yourself. So after Germany, then what did you do?
Then what did I do?
Do you see, was your voice was returning? You were
Yeah, everything was coming back little by little. Just, I definitely didn't speak anything like I do today. And this only happened 15 years after the stroke. And only when I changed my nutrition.
Your nutrition. So let's talk. So you turned to nutrition and holistic healing, right? And I guess what drew you to you should tell us what drew you to that path.
So I was interested in nutrition already because in the time since my stroke, I had been macrobiotic. Then I went pescatarian. Then I went vegetarian. Just to see what happened.
Yeah.
To see if it gave me any gains.
And
I don't know. I was doing so many things at once. I don't know.
You weren't sure, but it was something that intrigued you. And
Yeah, but I thought, well, let me see. I saw an ad for a program
Mhm.
for non-nutrition, and this was already 15 years after the stroke. And I'd already been plateaued for at least 5 to 7 years. I'd stopped recovering at maybe 70% of.
So at 70%, you had balance. You could walk. You were able to talk. You had a voice, not like it is
Not
now.
like this.
But at least you can hear your own voice again, right?
I could have just nice, but still, like, it's a lot of things I couldn't do that I used to do.
So then you started to focus on your nutrition, right? And how did that transform you?
My God, that gave me my life back. It was amazing.
Talk about that, yeah.
Wow, I could not believe it. 15 years after the stroke, I went through a course on nutrition, and I thought I would just learn something new.
Like a college course on nutrition, or
It wasn't a college course.
no,
College course.
just
It was a different course, just put on by somebody online.
right.
And I thought I'm just going to learn something new.
Sure.
I didn't have any other intentions beyond that. But what happened was 6 months from the start of the program, I'd recovered another 20%, and I got my life back. And I could not believe it.
That's crazy. So the person teaching that course, did they know about the benefits that nutrition has for people who have been through strokes, or was it just something you stumbled across?
It was just something I stumbled across because they do not, in their marketing, say that it improves conditions, right?
Right.
Because I think part of the reason they don't talk about that aspect is because it sounds pretty incredible.
Yeah. I'm sure they don't want to be liable and say, "Oh, well, it didn't help me when you did that."
But what he does say is that everybody can benefit from improved hydration nutrition.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the underlying problem is.
It's true. Water is amazing, and eating well, and so often I'm guilty of it. I don't drink enough water sometimes. I don't eat what I'm supposed to eat. I drink, if water was wine, I would be golden. I'll tell you, Maria. But let's talk about, how you now coach others through pretty much the same program that helped you,
Yes.
right? So what's the most powerful transformation you've witnessed from one of your clients?
Oh, wow. I've seen so many.
Pick one.
One of the most powerful ones is this gentleman came to me on crutches. Couldn't walk. He had terrible sciatic pain. And he was scheduled for an operation. He was going to have an operation. Within 7 weeks, his sciatica released.
Wow.
He came to one of the classes. It's online. He's like, "Look, Maria, And he starts running in place. And I was like, oh my God.
No cane, no crutches. No.
He canceled his operation. And to me, that was so unbelievable because I thought, what does food have to do with sciatica?
Yeah.
To me at that time, I didn't know it had anything to do with it. But now I know it's foundational. Because if you're getting your nutrition correct, everything else can stack on that.
Wow.
Your whole life is based on nutrition. I mean, when we take our pets to the vet,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing they ask you is, what are you feeding your pet?
Yes, yes.
I've never been asked what I'm eating.
No, they don't ask us that. Isn't that
Why?
interesting?
Where's beef?
They'll ask you if you smoke, you drink, do you do drugs? Not do you eat cookies and ice cream every day? No, yeah.
No, they don't ask you. And
No.
it's amazing because that's the root cause of pretty much everything.
Wow. So for someone who's listening who feels stuck, whether they're in illness, grief, self-doubt, what's the very first step they can take to begin their process in healing? What would you say?
So many things, but I would start with hydration. One that's important. And when you get the right stuff in your body, healing happens because your body wants to heal.
It's amazing how sometimes healing your body also heals your spirit.
Yes.
And that's the real magic in your story, Maria. It really is. I mean, it's just so beautiful to see how you blossom and you come alive, and knowing the depths of the struggle that you've been through. It just warms my heart. I mean, you are just amazing. And I just I know that you're grateful for everything that you've achieved, but you've also worked really hard to achieve it.
I did, and what frustrated me at the time when I healed so much, 15 years after a stroke, I thought, man, first I was happy, but I was also mad as heck because I thought I didn't have to suffer for 15 years the way I did if I had known what I know now.
Amazing, amazing. I know you've said that you wouldn't take a minute of it back because it made you who you are today.
That's true.
What gives you that sense of peace and acceptance now?
No longer in the eye of the storm, and I can look. Yeah. I can look at it and see it for what it was.
That's so powerful.
And seeing the way people showed up for me and stuff.
Oh, yeah. You have a special relationship with your brother still, huh?
Yeah.
That's awesome. You've mentioned that this experience has awakened your intuition, your empathy. How do those gifts show up in your life with coaching people today?
Well, a lot of times I could hear what they're not saying.
Mm.
Right? People say things, but that's not what they mean.
Yeah.
There's something else going on, so it's easier for me to see what's really at the root of what they're telling me.
That's yeah, it's true. You have to kind of feel what a lot of people are, they feel like you did. They feel like they did something wrong to bring this on, and just a lot of self, recrimination, I guess, against yourself. And it couldn't be further from the truth. You're a victim of circumstances in a lot of situations. But it's really up to you to have the fortitude to move forward.
Yeah, and I think that's got to do with childhood wounding and stuff.
Yes, of course it does. What does living genuinely mean to you, and how can the rest of us begin to live that way too?
Being true to yourself. Mm-hmm. I feel like before the stroke, I was just, I don't know, I would say a mask of what everybody else wanted me to be. And now I do what I like. I coach. Mm-hmm. I say what I have to say. Sometimes people don't like it.
That's okay. You can be you. And it's just,
right.
And that's what you always should be. You shouldn't hide behind any mask, because you're beautiful just the way you are. And I mean, we all have our special superpowers and our special strengths, and so often we try and suppress that. I think that you've been through so much, and what does joy look like for you now?
So different. So different. Whereas before, I don't know, I was in my 20s. So I used to like partying a lot.
Yeah, sure.
And I used to do a lot of drinking.
Yeah.
And that's not something I really do today.
So what do you do for what brings you joy? Because sometimes you hear people say, "Oh, well, you got to live. You got to have your wine or beer or whatever it is that makes people happy." What brings you joy?
Being at the beach. Being at the beach and feeling the sun on my skin.
I love that too. Me too. That is my happy place. I will tell you. I love beachcombing and looking for seashells. And I marvel at all these little shells. Some of them are like pulverized, and yet others are perfect. And it reminds me of kind of like people, right? You go through the ocean, you go through all your turmoil and things that you go through, and some people get pulverized through it, while others come out and they're shinier and smoother and just more, and it's just one of my happy places.
Yeah, the beach is really good, and I love hiking. I love traveling. So it's not like the things I was doing before the stroke. It's very different now.
So let's talk about that. What's one word to describe who you were before your stroke?
Partying.
All right. Okay. That's cool. That's fair. It's one hyphenated. And what about one word to describe who you are today?
Authentic.
Genuine.
Yeah.
Right? How about, do you have a quote or a mantra that's carried you through your recovery?
I wouldn't say I have a mantra that carried me through. However, I did hear a quote when I began to coach that I thought was so cool. It's a quote by Mark Twain, and it goes, "The two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why."
Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard that. That's really, I'm going to remember that one. The day you were born and the day you found out why. It's your soul's purpose, right? That's beautiful. What's a song that feels like your personal anthem? Maybe something comes to mind? Yeah, any song.
What is that song by the Bee Gees? There's a song by the Bee Gees that I'd love to play a lot.
Really? Okay. Oh, there's lots of songs by the Bee Gees.
Staying Alive.
Staying Alive. I was just going to say, dun, dun, dun. How about something you wish people understood about stroke survivors?
Everybody's stroke is so different. Something I wish people had known before to treat me is when I was cross-eyed in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Everybody assumed I was also deaf or something.
Yeah.
They would be like, when they spoke to me, they would speak to me like I was 4 and like I was half deaf. And I was like, you don't have to do that. I'm actually fine in my head. I just look different.
Oh, it's funny that you say that, because I think people don't know how to talk to someone in a wheelchair with no matter what they have, what disability they have. And a lot of times they almost make them feel invisible.
Yeah.
They don't see them. And I think because of the journey I've been on, one of the most profound things I've noticed is that I see people, but more than see them, if I see someone in a wheelchair, I will go up and compliment their purple tires on their wheelchair. I would never have done that before, not because I didn't notice it, but because I felt awkward or I didn't know how to communicate what I was feeling without feeling inadequate myself. And now I realize that it's not about my inadequacies. It's about showing up for someone who just may need to know that I've noticed, I've seen them, and it can make their day.
Yeah, I can.
And
Because that felt pretty awful.
yeah. If you could go back to that hospital room, what would you whisper to your 25-year-old self?
There's a reason for this.
Hmm.
And it's going to be okay.
Yeah. It's so hard to realize that when you're in the moment, isn't it?
Well, the lucky thing for me is because I had no reference, I did think I was going to be okay.
That's a good thing. Oh my God, Maria, your story reminds us that even when the body breaks down, the spirit knows how to rebuild. You've shown us that healing isn't just about walking again. It's about speaking, living, and loving again. I'm so grateful that you're showing the world what genuine courage looks like. Can you tell our audience how to reach you if they want to learn about the program that helped you?
So the best place, I'm not in social media much because I have a bit of a social media allergy for now.
Okay.
So the best place to find me is at my webpage, Genuinely Maria, and you can book a discovery call
Oh,
if you're
nice.
interested in.
That sounds so genuinelymaria.com, and that would be awesome. And as always, I usually close with a poem written by my son Scott, but I've got some exciting news that I want to share with our audience. I've written a book, and my book is about my journey. It's about what I've gone through from losing my son and how I've come through to the other side. But more than that, it also tells his story. It encompasses all of his poems, which will give you an insider's view as to what was going on in his mind, or the mind of a lot of teenagers at the time. He was really well versed in getting his feelings out through poetry. And I've also have in there letters that I wrote to him during my healing process through a narrative healing class I wrote. And so on November 11th, I'm going to announce a special offer to our listeners for to purchase my book before the general public can. It's SOS, a lesson on love, loss, and survival. And I'm going to just read the prologue to you guys to give you a little taste of what you'll find. Bam! 3 booming thuds shattered the silence at 1:07 a.m., waking me from a deep sleep. The sound wasn't the drip of a faucet or the hum of the fridge, but fists pounding metal, demanding entry. I ran down the stairs, my heart pounding, yanked open the door. 2 officers stood, framed in our porch light, their hats in hand, faces full of sadness. Time slowed. The hallway tilted. Somewhere our dog whimpered. A single sentence fell between us. 7 words that carved my world in half. I reached for the doorframe, for air, for my son. What you hold or will hold in your hands is the story Scott and I now tell together. Scott, my beautiful boy, forever 16, speaks here through his poems. I speak through the letters I wrote in the quiet hours, through memories that both ache and glow, and through the pieces of a life I had to keep living when his stopped. These pages are soaked in tears, but they're also stitched with hope. I offer them as a place where you can set down your own tears, your own smiles, your own tremors, and feel a little less alone. You'll hear 3 voices woven together. My raw memories, the letters I whispered to Scott in the dark when I couldn't sleep, and his own words. The poems kept exactly as he wrote them. Together they form a braid of grief and love, of loss and resilience, and the bond between a mother and son that even death couldn't break. Scott died by suicide just before his 17th birthday. His poems are snapshots of a young heart figuring out the world, unguarded, unpolished, alive. My letters trace the uneven path of loving someone who's both gone and everywhere. I like to believe this book is proof of something I hold dear, that no matter how far apart we seem, love finds its way back. Inside, you'll find our soaring highs, our shattering lows, and the everyday moments that now shine with extraordinary meaning. I hope our conversation here reminds you that your light matters, that it sparks tender, honest talk about mental health, that it nudges you to hold your people closer. And thank you for choosing to walk beside us. November 11th, you can go to my webpage, serinadansker.com. I'll be on Facebook, on Instagram, and on TikTok, and I will be giving you all the ins on how to get a copy of my book. Thank you so much for joining us. And Maria, thank you so much for being here. And to our listeners, to SOS Stories of Survivors, I'm so grateful for you. And remember, even after the silence, your voice still matters. I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.